So once again, the reason for there being a part 2 of this deep dive, the reason I broke it into 2 parts, was because of the problems I was having with intermittent failure to lock the slide open after the last round was fired. And it seemed like it was just one magazine, maybe 2 magazines that were doing that. But I wanted to be able to do a lot of testing and bring you back some more information. Well, that's where we are today. Okay, working on breaking variables down and trying to eliminate some of the variables, or at least identify what those variables' properties might be and so on. So you can see I have a collection of magazines here. I still have some more 12 rounders on order, but I don't know when I'll get those. But as I had said in part 1, I have yet to have a problem, I believe, with the 12 round magazine. So this magazine is the singular one so far that has been flawless. If it's a 12 round magazine, then it stands to reason it has a different spring in it. So that kind of would lead you to assume it could be a spring issue, but who knows. I have 2 magazines here that are brand new that I have yet to use. I have yet to even load. One of these I purchased from Midway USA, and it just came. And the other one, SIG Sauer sent me to help me with my testing and eliminate variables. So the one that SIG Sauer sent me is numbered number 3. The one Midway USA sent me is numbered number 2. I do want to keep track of that. Number 1 is the one that came with the pistol, and the one with the pinky extension that's a 10 round magazine is numbered number 4. So basically 1, 2, and 3 are the flat base plate 10 round magazines, with number 1 being the one that came with the gun, and number 5 is the 12 round magazine. So now that we're all on that same page. Okay, so I'm actually out here today doing other work, because you know I do other work, but I brought the P365 with me because it's my carry gun and it goes with me. And I thought I'm going to take every opportunity to work on this magazine situation where sometimes the slide locks open and sometimes it doesn't. I think I have just about decided that it's this magazine number 1, which is the flat base plate 10 rounder that came with the pistol, is the main culprit. However, I have had a couple of times where it's also happened with the 10 round pinky extension magazine. It has not happened at all yet with either of the 2 new magazines. Keep all that straight. I've just put 1 round in the magazine. I'm gonna go through all of these magazines with just 1 round each a bunch of times in a row and just see what happens. Locked it open. That was number 1. Number 2. So this is a magazine that I did not get with the gun. Locked it open. Number 3. Locked it open. And number 4, this is the pinky extension magazine that came with the gun. It has also a couple of times not locked the slide back. Locked it open. So 100% success there, unless we didn't want it to work, in which case it would be 100% failure. All right, let me stuff rounds in these things and try that one more time. So I started by comparing the problem magazine, the one I really knew to have the problem fairly consistently, with one that I suspected did not have the problem at all. And that was a brand new magazine. And you can see in these close-ups that the follower for the problematic magazine just doesn't come up as high. It doesn't come up all the way to where it should. It should contact the feed lips and the little ledge that pushes up the slide lock should come up higher, and it doesn't. So to continue and help eliminate myself as a potential cause, or maybe contributing to the cause of the problem, I let a bunch of people shoot the gun. And I put a big pile of magazines on the table, and I let them load up the magazines in whatever or random order they wanted to and shoot them. And pretty much everybody, I think, put 10 rounds. Maybe if they had a 12 round magazine, they put 12 rounds. People were enjoying shooting the gun. The number 1 magazine which was the one that exhibited the problems, the one I marked as number 1, continued to intermittently have a problem. Sometimes it would lock the slide open and sometimes it wouldn't, but the rest of them ran really good. And the gun itself ran really good. So it was a nice test of the pistol under heavy use conditions as well.
Which one didn't?
Number 2.
Number 2?
She's getting hot.
Yeah.
This is a good test.
Think I found my next gun.
I don't even know. Not bad.
Got him.
Okay, so I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, well, just putting one round in the magazine might change the geometry of the follower, the spring, things like that. Yeah, I know, I thought of that too. But what are you going to do? You got to test. So I got 2 rounds in each magazine now, so I'm going to try 2 in each and see how they behave. In no order particularly, so starting with mag number 3. Magazine number 2. Magazine number 1. And finally, magazine number 4. And again, locked it back. So 100% success so far today. Still at it, kids. SIG Sauer P365. This is part 2 of a deep dive. And I'm just going to shoot the heck out of it. Every magazine. Ow! Slide's getting a little warm. Guess that's what happens when you shoot about 60 rounds real quick. So I just went through actually 56 rounds pretty quick and 0 malfunctions. Okay, last time, then I'm out of ammo. I've got 5 rounds in magazine number 1 and I've got 3 rounds each in each of the other magazines. See what happens. So what's my final word on the P365? Well, I don't know what my final word's going to be, and I don't have any idea when that final word might come, but I'll tell you where it stands right now. I've probably done more testing with this handgun than I have with a handgun in a long time, and I remain confident in this gun. The biggest problem, and really frankly the only problem that I've seen, is that it will occasionally, with one magazine, not lock the slide back. Well, guess what? I'm not going to carry that magazine when I'm carrying the gun for protection. That magazine's going to stay in the range bag or in a cabinet somewhere and only come out for use at the range until such time as I can either diagnose the problem and fix it or just live with it. So just to recap, for part 2 of a deep dive here on the SIG Sauer P365, and we're coming up on 1,000 rounds through this little pistol. I have not had any misfires, I have not had any misfeeds of any kind, I haven't had any ejection or extraction problems. What I have had is one magazine that, for whatever reason, didn't always want to lock the slide open on the last round. Certainly not a shooting malfunction, but a sort of a manual of arms kind of malfunction. It's not the kind of malfunction I want. So I got more magazines to work with, and that does seem to be isolated to just a magazine, and it's intermittent, doesn't even do it all the time. However, I am noticing that it does appear that I do have the firing pin dragging the primers on the gun. Again, has not caused any malfunction, but it is something I want to look at more closely, maybe talk to SIG about, because eventually that's going to mean a broken firing pin. That would not be good. Okay, this next group of magazines I have loaded up, like half a dozen of them or more, will take me to 1,000 rounds through the P365. Now that doesn't mean a whole lot by any serious test standards, and I don't really do much in the way of what people call torture testing. However, I've put several hundred rounds through this thing this morning. It's almost too hot to touch, and I'm getting a blister on my finger from it. So we are definitely trying to put it through its paces. Well, in the immortal words of John Lennon, I've got blisters on my fingers. At least this one. And I think it's just because the trigger is so damn hot. All right, here we go. This magazine makes it 1,000 rounds, makes me done for the day, and we'll talk more when I get back somewhere cool and quiet. Worst part is, I've got to put my carry ammo back in this thing and carry it home, and it is steaming hot. Whew. So here it is where it spends most of its time in this holster. This is a really nice multi-holster, and I like that carbon fiber. And right now I've got a 12-round magazine in it, only because it's empty. There's actually nothing in it. The gun now has 1,000 rounds through it. And I haven't cleaned it since it had a couple hundred. Whatever that first video I made, you know, the first 100 and however many I put through it, I cleaned it good after that, and it has not been cleaned since. So I've been running it in between every range trip dirty, and it is pretty dirty. You can barely even see the feed ramp and chamber down in there. They're pretty dirty. The breech face actually doesn't look too bad. But it has run. Now I have checked it to make sure that it had lubrication, that I wasn't just running it bone dry. But it has run very well, hasn't had any kind of problems or any malfunctions related to being dirty or being dry or anything like that. But it is certainly time now to clean it and give it a good fresh coat of lube. However, before I do that, and while you're here, let's just take a quick look inside. You can see there it is. We got some pretty caked on carbon. Got almost 1,000 rounds of filth in here. But what I'm specifically looking for is anything abnormal. And I'm really not seeing any cause for concern. I really don't see any kind of excessive wear. You can definitely see here where you're stripping the rounds. It's keeping that clean. But I'm not seeing brass deposited there like I sometimes will see on handguns. So again, I'm not seeing really any what I would consider excessive wear or peening or anything like that. So it looks decent. I ought to just leave it apart because I do need to clean it. The only other symptom that my P365 has exhibited that others have reported or complained about with theirs is getting some degree of primer drag. So here's 4 examples, and they're pretty typical of what I've seen. And you can see that even within these 4, they almost kind of go left to right from worst to least, or however you'd want to phrase that. But this is kind of a typical cross section of what I've seen on the cases that I've examined from the P365. And again, primer drag, I don't know. I think in the subcompact world, we may have to just deal with it. I don't know whether the P365 really is at risk for being more susceptible to it than a lot of other subcompacts, because it really comes down to the super intricate timing that has to occur in a subcompact semi-automatic handgun, and that you just don't have those milliseconds or nanoseconds or whatever you could measure the time in. You just don't have that in a very, very small gun like you do in a larger duty-sized gun. So this is the result of that. I have not had any adverse effect of it, but who knows? I could go out next time at the range and first shot I could snap off the tip of the firing pin. So we never know. If that happens, I will let you know. But here you go, folks. It has been my carry gun for a few months now, since I first got it and tested it and did my first 100 with it. And yeah, I had a little bit of problems and still do with one magazine, but that's it. In every other way, it is performing for me. It's a heck of a good shooter. I shoot it very well, and it meets my needs as a carry gun, and it is my #1 go-to carry gun.